Hello and welcome to episode 19 of This Korean Life. This episode is brought to you by Sticky Tacos. Sticky Fingers Ulsan has expanded their service and now includes the delivery of tacos, burritos, and nachos. Check out their menu on Instagram at Pub Sticky Fingers. There is no better time to enjoy some beautiful Mexican cuisine inside the comfort of your own home than now. Check them out at Pub Sticky Fingers. This episode is also brought to you by ESL Hacker. Check out the site for some sweet alternatives to use in your classroom or for online teaching. Everything on the website is now free. That's right, it's free. There's a donation button if you feel the need to support, but otherwise, download as needed. There are pop song workbook packages, the True Story Laboratory with unreal stories and illustrations and worksheets, and some other goodies to help you improve the quality of your classes. Check them out today at eslhacker.com, on Facebook, and Instagram at ESL Hacker. Today's guest is our dear friend and neighbor, Simone Du Preez. This podcast is so rich with beautiful conversation and touches on so many topics that affect many of us, like depression, loneliness, acceptance, rejection, family relationships, and so on. Listen as she shares her new perspective on life and sheds light on her spiritual journey. We hope you all enjoy.
You are now tuned into This Korean Life with your hosts, Brian and Nate.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of This South African Life, because our last 10 guests have been from South Africa. I'm only joking. Anyways, welcome today, Simone Du Preez.
Yeah.
I said it right. Wonderful.
Silent Z.
Silent Z? Simone Du Preez. Wonderful. Anyways, welcome to our awesome studio. First thing, we just found out that you're living in our mine and Nate's old stomping grounds.
It's a small world.
It is.
Small Korea.
Why?
Don't ask around about me.
Nate's infamous, man.
It used to be the Maramugadon.
Oh yeah.
You
I
did.
Like this area.
I think lots of them might have moved on now, all the owners and people. But back in the day, yeah, everybody knew who we were for sure.
I've seen a lot of new faces around though. I was just saying earlier that it seems like there aren't as many teachers maybe as before, but now I'm seeing a lot more international students. Yeah.
Tons and tons of students.
Yeah.
Yeah, the demographic has changed drastically. I teach a class at McDonald's over here, and the whole time I'm there is just international students coming down the hill.
Yeah.
And just really a different group of people. But
Even in my building, there's about 3 apartments over the last 6 months that have had students moving in groups. So it's gotten very loud.
Wonderful. That's awesome. How long? You're on contract, I assume, with Hagwon, and you're halfway through.
I
your
finish in June, the end of June. Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah.
You've been here for the duration. You said you lived on the other side of the Rotary as well.
Yes, when I just came back to Korea about 2.5 years ago, I moved to Gulhwa, and then I came over to Okyeon because I needed more space for my dogs, and I didn't want my apartment to be attached to the school anymore. I kind of wanted that freedom. So
What is it? It's strange. I mean, we used to walk down to like the main bar used to be 200 meters down the road, and we just lived up here, and we would walk down and bump into all of his students. Nate, teacher, Amanda, go Sam. Go, oh my God, Jimmy, what's in your hand? It's not a beer. But it's that's funny. It is. You need that separation, right? And that's, I think, in Korea, lots of work often. There's no separation between your work and your life, right?
Oh gosh.
Whether it's emails or phone calls or bumping into kids.
My previous school was right across the road from my apartment. And I was like, no, I can't have guests over or friends over without bumping into a parent or somebody that knows me from school. I'm like, no, I need a
Kids
little
looking
bit
in the
more
window.
privacy. Yeah.
I got that shampoo, teacher. What?
it depends on the neighborhood. I used to live 500 meters from my old school here, and that wasn't a family place. It was all single one rooms or whatever, so it was just young or single people. So the students never ventured up that way, although there was one family with 2 girls living in an apartment.
Yeah.
And every time I went by, they say, "Teacher!" I'm like, oh, I forgot. I should have went the other way. But
Close the window and you're
a
taking a
school
shit.
of almost 1,000 kids, and only those 2 girls and their family lived anywhere close to me. So I think it depends where you are, but yeah, nice to have the separation for sure.
In total, how long have you spent in Korea?
I came for the very first time, was it like 6 years ago? Yeah, 6 years ago. But I went to Gongju through EPIC first. It's near Daejeon, a smaller city. And then all my friends from university were in Ulsan. So I decided to move down in my second year, stayed for a year, and then left for about a year and a half, did some traveling, some studying, and then came back.
Very nice, very nice. We'll do both sides of the coin. First, start with some challenges that you faced in Korea so far. Some of the hardships that you've endured. It's just great. Everything's good.
No, now it is.
Yeah.
Now I things are really wonderful. But I guess maybe the lack of connection. Being here and away from family, you're so used to being around people all the time, especially when you're living with your family and then you move out to living alone and everybody has their own little thing going on and you see each other on a Saturday night and this goes on every weekend for a year, but in the week it's just you and whatever thing.
But is that not by choice, or is that by default, or... Because I think there's so much going on, but you have to get out and find it. It doesn't just come looking for you.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it was a huge benefit when we came. Well, when I came a long time before him, but there was only one place to go, and 3 foreigners owned that bar, and you went there and you met everybody. And if you were interested in Dungeons and Dragons, or walking dogs, or playing hockey, or starting a business, you could meet all those people there, and then find your little a group
Niche.
that you could work on throughout the week if you chose to.
Niche?
But
Tole?
but is that a lack of desire to go out and find those people, or?
I think that maybe the people that I had connected with also were, or the level that we connected on didn't leave room for much more to kind of expand within those friendships. And so now, as I kind of learn of these different sides of myself, I'm now starting to expand into maybe exploring other relationships, other people. So I still have the people in my life that have been there since I first was here, and that relationship is still wonderful, it's still present, but I'm also exploring other things now.
I really enjoyed that Monday, well, I guess Friday night break, or Sunday night to Friday night break when I lived to
Recuperate.
No, yeah, to recuperate was one, but again, there was lots of other things. I think it came in like waves of, first it was boredom, like, oh, just gonna watch TV, pass the time, and waiting for Saturday, and then I'm interested in this, and then slowly it shifts from Saturdays the high point to maybe something you're studying during the week is the highlight of your week. So
We used to have a pretty infamous Wednesday bowling night that used to break the week up very well, and lots of guys finished at 8-9 o'clock at night, so dinner would be 9 till 11. And you would bowl from 11 till 12 or 1, and then you'd go back across to the bar after. And that broke up your Wednesday, your week beautifully. But many people didn't have to go to work until 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So you could, you had that time in the morning. But I also wonder if your first experience was epic. What I noticed, because I also joined the public school system in 2008 maybe, or 9, that they were a different group or different breed of teachers coming in, because they were so cliquey.
Oh, yeah.
And when I came by myself, you were forced to go out and find people. And if I want sports or I want book club or whatever, I had to force myself to go out and meet those people. But when the other groups came in 2008 or 9, the first groups of EPIC to Korea, I was the outcast because I'd already lived here for 5 years. And they all met at orientation, and I already knew all that stuff. That wasn't interesting or new to me. And they automatically form these cliques of the Americans or the African Americans or the Brits and it was just so cliquey.
Yeah.
And they rarely got out of those to explore, and they got to know their co-teachers. But now I think it's evolved, and there's not as many anymore. So they do get out and explore more. But compared to teachers who came before those groups were here, you were forced to go out And many schools only had 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
So you had to go out and find your own way.
Well, I'm finding now that, firstly, I'm enjoying the quiet time in the week more now. But I think before it was a matter of not being okay with yourself, and so you need the distractions. You know, so you either get wound up in series, or you get wound up in partying too much, or you get wound up in something to kind of take your mind off of whatever you don't want to be thinking about. So I guess before, trying to find groups or people or situations that would be those distractions weren't always there, and that's where that disconnect kind of came in. It was really a disconnect with self more than a disconnect with other people. But when I first came to Ulsan, I found it was very cliquey as well. But I do feel like that is kind of changing. It's changing like that. Like,
Do you think that's
now
specifically Ulsan, or?
In my first city, it was like that as well.
Right.
But there were
I just
fewer
found it
teachers.
was like when you come. The first intake here was 250 teachers.
Wow.
But
So-
it's natural to wanna
Tombstone?
bond with your.
Yeah.
I mean, when you came here, you went to Tombstone, right?
Sure.
You went to Tombstone. That's kind of the same thing, just on a smaller scale, right?
But
And-
you had
and
to
if-
feel everyone out in a different way. You didn't have that safe group or whatever that you came with that, everyone's doing it, I'll be okay. These guys have all been here longer than me. It's my first day.
If it was available, I think it's the easier choice, and not a lot of. I don't think a lot of people would necessarily.
I don't either. I think it's
go
an
the way
awesome way to feel comfortable moving to a very strange place. The time the point that I think it becomes not productive is when you don't engage in Korean society and not assimilate, but learn about the culture and stuff in the ways that you would if you didn't
your
have
tattoo.
all the friends or clique or whatever colleagues to depend on. And I think, like we say, we used to have to go out and ask, and we'd run across the street to say hi to a foreigner. But now there's on the social media, where do I buy cheese? Come on, get out of your phone and go
Costco
meet
open?
somebody. So it was a very different.
To speak to getting wrapped up in things, we talked before the podcast started. We're gonna get into some philosophy and whatnot, but I said recently I've come across the Tao or the Dao. I don't know if it's a T or a D. To be honest, I have a good friend, Hung Dao. Shout out to Hung Dao if you're listening. Probably not. Anyways, one of the teachings for them, they said continual input obscures general insight. If you're always on the receiving end of things, you can never critically, you're not thinking deeply. Like you said, you're getting wrapped up into it.
Yes.
And I found, or they go on to say, don't substitute sensationalism for learning. And I found in the last probably 3 years or 4 years with podcasts, oh God, I'm listening to these things, in the car, while I'm brushing my teeth here and there, and thinking that I'm learning something, but really I don't think I am. And it took a few years to kind of clue into that, and now that I've turned them off, I'm more focused on my daily tasks or school and whatnot.
That reminds me of something that I've come across called the collective insanity. So basically the idea that we're all kind of prescribing to whatever social norms, and we're learning about the way that we should behave or the way that we is deemed proper. And but at the end of the day, collective insanity, taking the ideas of what exists around us as our own, and then all those layers start to kind of build up of all those experiences, but those experiences are not really who you are. Those experiences are just an accumulation of all the experiences that you've had throughout life because of the way that we're supposed to respond to life, the way that we learn that we're supposed to respond to life.
That you're a product of your society.
Absolutely.
Take the same person, put them somewhere else, they're a completely different person.
So removing all those layers is kind of what this whole my journey currently has been about.
And
is
that's why I love
the nurture aspect of the nature nurture.
getting to the root of all of it. So
That's why I love traveling, to see the different sides of myself.
That's beautiful.
I can be this person in Canada and I'm this person in Korea. I'm the same person, but I just react differently to the environment that I'm living in.
Absolutely.
But traveling all over the world, you also have many different sides of yourself that maybe you didn't discover before. And that's part of my problem living in one place. I know I can be this, or I know I can have a clearer mind here, or I know I can be more productive here. But sometimes we got to stay in one place and live, and you end up being more maybe what you want to be or not want to be because of that.
I think some of the philosophers would say that that's not the right not the right way to think. You should be happy with where you are and not projecting yourself in the future, not being too caught up in the future. But
that's why I stay here, because this is the place I'm happiest. That's why I'm staying here. And there's sacrifices to living somewhere that you could be less stressful with work, but you might have more financial stress, and here you might have less financial stress and more. I mean, it's all just different. You got to compromise.
I guess with me, it's kind of removing all of those outer layers. That whatever is beneath all of those outer layers, whether it's even your name, I'm Simone. That name was given to me. What were you before that name was given to you? Your family relationships, your accomplishments, your goals, your ambitions, the things that you want to be in the future, the things that you failed in the past. Removing all of those things and kind of getting to the core of what's beneath all of those things, and then that thing should be okay wherever it is. That core self should be able to exist in harmony with its surroundings wherever it's put. So I guess it's very interesting.
I mean, but you're going to be in different environments, and they're going to have different external pressures on you, and they're going to make you react in different ways.
They don't make you.
No,
you react.
Yeah.
You have the choice.
Right. You react in different ways. I don't know if harmony is the right word, but I feel I'm very flexible and adaptable, and because of my travels, I think I can make it. I can live anywhere and everywhere, because I just, like you said, perspective.
Yeah.
You can look. It's your choice. You can choose to look at it either whatever way you want, and that's your choice. If you choose to get angry, it's not like you say in one of those talks. Why am I getting angry? It's not because of somebody. It's my choice.
Yeah, it's me.
And
why am I being
guilty?
all I have to do is just stop choosing to be angry at them.
Why am I being triggered? Something the very first thing that I learned on this journey was learning to look at myself. So somebody comes and maybe triggers something in me, and I'm like, I get so mad because this person is so awful, they didn't consider my feelings.
You can step back and observe that.
Exactly. And then just be like, well, why do I expect them to behave in the way that I've created this little box of what they look like to me, and they should react and treat me the way that I imagine they should within those tiny confines. Yeah. And if they step outside of those confines, all hell breaks loose,
Yeah. I don't know if this is a good situation or not, but if there's a red light, I expect you to stop. And if you don't stop and it triggers me, I'm expecting you to stop, because that's the law.
Okay.
Bad driving gets me a little bit frustrated in Korea.
Who was I sent you the Seneca on anger. Yes. And Eric, shout out to Eric Ellinger. He said and same thing as Seneca. Why do you get angry at bad driving here? It should be expected that people drive like morons. You've seen it for 15 years while living here. Why does it still trigger you? It should be expected.
But it's a lot less now than it would have when I started.
Well,
but why would
I flip out every day. I get in my car and flip out.
But I'm saying, when I go to countries where drivers haven't been educated and there's not a general knowledge of road rules and respect on the road and pedestrians, and that, no problem. I can accept that and understand that they're in the process of getting to the destination. But when I come to a place where they have been driving a long time and they do have similar rules but just no respect for the rules, it's hard for me to comprehend, and that's what I've had to deal with and adapt to.
Perhaps your expectations are too high there, Tiger Dad, with the new drive. So one thing I'm still a psycho in the car. I'm embarrassed. If there's ever a camera in my car, people they'd think I'm a monster. But one thing that that has allowed me to take a step back and understand the driving culture here is that my wife told me when she was in grade 6, 2 people in her class had a car. 2 families in her class had a car.
It's generally new.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. The driving culture is so new. But and I do as well, Nate. Same as you. I do have a high expectation for a country who's so educated and prides themselves on education. It's
To act the way you think they should act.
God, yeah.
They should be better. Because I say so.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely. Everyone's
No, and not because I say so, because their society says so. That's why they've developed the rules and the lines on the roads and the signs and the stoplights, because they've evolved like other countries have, and other countries do expect their citizens to follow those. That's why they made them. Yeah, it's not necessarily I do. I find more times than not now I sit back and go, it doesn't do anything if you get angry. Just laugh and smile at that guy.
Well,
and I might just shake my head and blow out a puff of steam. But before I know, I might lay on
That's
the
a nice
horn.
way to put it.
I might lay on the horn or whatever. And my wife will say, why
are you so horny?
Why do you do that? I'm like, well, because I think he's on his phone and he's not watching that the light is green.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to expect that the guy's going to be on his phone? I
You're
don't
not
know.
supposed to expect anything.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that's the thing.
Just let it come and let it go.
But can anybody live like that?
I'm trying, and I'm doing pretty well so far.
I try and do things like, look at that guy just went through a red light. His wife must be giving birth. You know, like, his mom just had a heart attack. Oh, and he's got to go save her because she's at the bottom of the stairs. But it doesn't. I slip back into
No, because if I thought that, then I wouldn't stop for any red lights and I might die.
Well, I guess then that kind of brings me maybe to the point of when other people spill over their shit into your life. You could have everything running smoothly in your own life, and then somebody else with their little thing comes and spills over into your life. Still, you have a choice on how to react to it.
Sure, absolutely.
You can choose to carry this annoyance with you for the rest of the day, and now your whole day is freaking messed up because the bus driver nearly hit the granny that was crossing the road, and you were trying to help the granny get then your whole day is destroyed. Or you can just be like any other thing that comes up, let it come and let it go. You know.
So can I call you Elsa then?
Oh, dad jokes 101. Everyone take note.
Let it go.
Yeah.
It is a good philosophy, but
if you get kicked out of the country, if you go to jail, I guess I'll just let it go in jail for 6 months.
Can I speak to that actually?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind going to jail for 6 months.
Meditation time.
minus the horrendous things
maybe
that
Norwegian
could possibly
jail.
happen. A Norwegian jail, that sounds good. Yeah.
So recently I had some trouble with one of my schools, and this of course presented an opportunity, let's call it an opportunity, to do some introspection. Okay, so what about this situation is making me feel like I need to control this? Number one, I should get my salary on time. Damn it, is that too much of an
Why would you think
expectation?
that? That's crazy.
You know, what can I do about this? Okay, I can continue to just try to breathe through it and ignore it like it's not actually happening and I don't get paid late every month. Or I can actually do something about it because I'm human and I'm standing here and I have a voice that I can use.
So you punch him in the face?
Peacefully, I can do that too. So what I ended up doing was, after a couple of months of this happening continually, I go to my boss and I'm like, okay, look, this is not okay. And I'm like, what are the worst things that can come out of this conversation? She has a contact at immigration office. The worst thing, I can get kicked out of the country. My dogs are stuck in the country for however long until I can get them back. It's going to cost it's going to cost a whole lot of money to sort that situation out. But that is maybe the worst possible scenario that I can come up with in my head. Can I deal with that? Yes, I can. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I can handle it, right? I can deal with it. So anything else that comes out of the conversation is whatever.
Anything a step up from that would be a success.
Yeah. So have the conversation, deal with the situation, let whatever's going to come, and let it go.
I don't know letting go everything totally completely, and if I be as effective, efficient, whatever.
Well, to save
if I was like that, but I think I've learned over the last, or matured as a father, and over the last year since our days of partying, that there is a lot of self-reflection and to step back and say, well, what good does this do me? Anything? No? Then just the book I was reading, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you read that?
I've heard of it. I've been meaning to get to it.
And he says you have to learn what to give a fuck about, and if you give fucks about too many things, then you don't give them about the right things, and you're just tied up in all this other hubbaloo or whatever they call it, and you're not focused on what you should be focused on.
Hashtag hubbaloo.
Which I just came out of the class. I was just teaching with a bunch of women, and we looked at that article on the Finnish Prime Minister trying to enact the 6-hour work day or the 4-day work week. And they were citing a bunch of studies in Japan, Sweden, and other places that efficiency improved from 10 to 40% productivity.
I do question that. It's like the old experiment where they were checking lighting in a factory, and they're like, oh, when we changed to this kind of light, the productivity went up, and then the people, the inspectors went away, and the productivity just dropped back down to normal levels because they were being observed. I would like to see the.
But I believe there's some longevity studies on these. But I don't think the biggest one that quoted 40% was Microsoft Japan. And I think there's probably a similar work culture between the two of them. It's cited online all the time, of these 12-hour, 14-hour work days. I don't think it's hard to cut these 12-hour, 14-hour guys down in time and make them 40% more productive. Not at all. If you're talking about efficient countries or whatever, fine. But Korea ranks amongst the worst productivity and efficient countries in the world. So
but I wonder how many people are just sitting at work for an extra 2 hours because their boss doesn't want to go home.
So that's what I mean. So it's all the time. So 40%, I don't think that's that far of a stretch. But 20, 30%, absolutely.
Yeah. So just erase the hundreds of years of Confucian principles that have been instilled in them, and then
I teach one of the police chiefs in town. We had studied an article like this a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, I said, straight up, how many hours a day do you think you need to do your job?
30 minutes.
He said 3 to 4 hours. I said, how long do you stay at the office in a day? 8 to 10. He's saying that's how much time he needs. I said, in Korea, there's so many plainclothes police people. They're not even officers, but we don't have those big buildings. Each district of the city has a huge 5-story complex. What are these people doing? I said, how much of Korea's police force do you think would be necessary to run the country effectively and efficiently? He said, easily we could cut 40 to 50% of the people. They're not doing anything. With a country with such a low crime rate and no drugs, gangs compared to Western countries.
Delete half the police force, watch that shit ramp right up.
but you know what I mean? I think we see it and we can complain about it all the time. Like, what are these guys doing? And at home, I think there's a lot of work for police to do. Yeah. Maybe too much work. But here, it's like they just create jobs, and the companies are the same thing. They create all these jobs just to have people. And I think the efficiency is horrendous here.
But
what's the alternative?
No, but I think that's the aim, again, back to Confucian principles. The whole point of Confucius' education system, or one of the purposes of it, was to educate people enough so they can to be like government workers. And that's here, man. That's all of Korea. That's and because of the 2007 recession, I think a lot of people got scared into going away from companies and taking that safe job, right?
Well, I guess the progression of education and of maybe the society that we've constructed today, back in the day, during hunter-gatherer days, and people are learning what they need to do in order to survive in that way. Right. And then farming started, agriculture started, and then you start getting trades being introduced. So now people have to learn how to work in communities and who contributes what to these communities. And so it goes until you get to the Industrial Revolution, where machinery is starting to be introduced, and now people need to learn how to use this machinery in order to progress further. And so education is being used in these ways in order to keep society going in the way that it's going. It's not at all geared towards what you like, what makes you happy, what fulfills you.
Right.
It's just keeping society going and
Right.
keeping people busy, because if you're not busy and you start having the conversations that we're having and more people get engaged, society falls apart.
It's like the
You know?
60s and the acid
Yeah.
revolution, man. Yeah? A bunch of hippies just
Well, that's just it.
laying around at Woodstock.
So it's good for the government.
Yeah. It's good for the owners. It's good for business owners and entrepreneurs. And but if you're not that 1%, exactly,
Yeah.
then you're one of the monkeys just doing the circus act.
I think if you're reflecting on your life and what you like and what direction you want to go, I don't think you have to subscribe to. You don't have to subscribe to that expensive house or expensive car. There's the whole society's built around
The ego.
I think money's a part. You can't separate yourself from money. You need it to exist in this system. But how big of a role you want it to play in your life is totally up to you.
Yeah.
You can live in a small little apartment and not have to work 15 hours a day, or get the.
But like we
mansion.
said, you're a product of your society. And when everyone around you is doing this, you're most likely going to be doing this.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I don't go home. I don't want a 3,000 square foot house to collect more junk.
Oh yeah.
I just can have a small apartment here, and I don't have to collect all the junk, and I don't need Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving. I don't need to redecorate my house 4 times a year with the seasonal decoration.
Yeah.
I can live so much simpler here and basic, and not have my mind cluttered with so many things that
Taoism.
I find at home, right? There's so much. It's just so.
Referring back to the journey that I've been on again, one of my brother's colleagues saw one of my posts on Instagram and was like, "Oh, you should tell your sister to be careful about how far she goes with this, because she could end up like completely destroying her life in terms of how she connects to reality in terms of the way that we view it to be socially." And my brother was like, "Yeah, I am a little bit concerned that you're going to end up on a mountain somewhere." And then I'm like, but that's coming from a place of fear. And that fear comes from a place of social conditioning. So still in your response to your fear of me being stuck on a mountain or living on a mountain is because you have this idea in your mind that life should be a certain way. So remove that idea. I don't have a problem if my life goes in that direction and I end up on a mountain for 10 years. I'm okay with that. Why are you not okay with that? You know?
Sure.
So
I don't know about 10 years.
I don't know if it's I'm just saying that I'm open to whatever
Absolutely,
possibility. If it goes that way, I'm not going to be afraid of it to go in that direction because of social
Do you
prescription.
find that it's easier here to gather your thoughts, to clear your mind, because you're Koreans? I'm not saying it's not, but I assume it's not good enough to understand the regular chatter all day going on around you. One thing I dislike going home is hearing everybody's concerns and thoughts, if they're positive or negative, or complaints. I don't care about all that stuff. So I love here being able to tune out. If I'm talking at my in-laws, I turn on my Korean ears and we can have a conversation. But otherwise, I can just tune everything out and it's so easy. Do you think that makes it easier here on this journey and finding yourself and all this stuff? Is it easier being in this environment than at home with the pressures and stuff that the societal norms that we grew up with?
Most certainly.
And don't leave advertising out of that either. Where you turn on the TV and there's Koreans dancing around like, look at my new car. That shit doesn't affect me at all, man. That's great.
Most certainly. When I was here in my second year, I had this beautiful peace throughout that year. It was just such a peaceful year. And I had no idea what brought it on. But as soon as I got home, a month in, I was like, Mom and Dad, I'm moving to Joburg. Because I could feel it start to
Back
unravel.
in the groove.
Yeah. And I mean, I was home for about a year and a half, and then I came back to Korea. Things were still very much unraveled, worse than before. And that unraveling just got worse and worse until it got to a turning point. But it is definitely easier to be here without all those influences. You have to have such a strong mind to go back into that social...
Like you said, the power of advertising and marketing, and man, it just sucks you in, and you get in that groove and it's hard to get out. And I get out and I feel I'm way over here, and then slowly I'm getting funneled back into that. And I go, oh, get out quick before you fall in there, get out. And if you haven't traveled extensively or for long periods of time, maybe you don't feel it, and the 1 week vacation doesn't make you appreciate the differentness of the places you go. Yeah. But if you go somewhere for 6 months or a year, then you might start to think, there's another option. I find a lot of Koreans do that when they go abroad and they come back and go, some of the Koreans hate living abroad. They really like the comfort here, which is similar with people in my country. But a lot of them now go and they go, this is the hell Joseon. 80% of young Koreans want to leave the country because now they're seeing it. They're seeing there's a different way that isn't this way.
Yeah. Well, I'm planning on going back home in June, July. I know that is a big laugh. And I'm like, this is going to be the ultimate test to see how much I've learned and how far I actually have come on the journey.
Are you in a mountainous region at home? Where you can escape?
I actually live on a mountain.
Oh, beautiful.
My family home is on a mountain and we have woods around nearby. So I don't know if it's safe though, but they're there. And for me, it's like the more I feel I know myself, the less I feel I'm impacted by what's happening around me. So the more... or the more deeply rooted I am in who I truly am as a person at that core level behind all the layers, the less. But of course you don't know until you're in the actual environment, and then you actually see how much you've learned about yourself.
I haven't drank in over a year. Going home last summer for vacation, it was a test, but I mean, I think being here for so long, like you said, you can really develop your character and kind of callous your mind and in a way that's not affected by those things. And when I went home, come on, you pussy, have a beer. Come on, we're your boys, let's have a beer. And I was like, nah, I'll be okay, you know. And everything was fine. I didn't feel the pressure was too much. But 10 years ago, I probably would have. I might have cracked. But like you said, knowing yourself.
Or if you were there maybe for longer than a month. You know the end is near. I just have to endure this for 1 month, and then I get back to my, where I can just do what I want to do in Korea, where I control everything. I feel I live a lot more on my own terms here, and I think I'm susceptible, like everyone else, to all those. I sit down and watch one reality show, and I go, this is kind of cool. I could see watching this regularly. But there's really
scary,
like Shark Tank, where you see guys. I love business. I love entrepreneurial stuff. I think I love, and there's lots of inspiration in those, but I don't want to watch it every night. That's why I like here. The TV's not good here. I don't do or know how to do Netflix, and I'm not interested.
You don't like Korean TV?
So
don't get us sucked into it, maybe.
Come on.
Right. So that's what I mean. I feel like I'm
tongue in cheek. It's terrible.
I can write my own story here. Where at home I feel someone's got their hand on the pen with me, helping me write it, and I don't like that. So that's I feel here I live on my own terms a lot more than I go home, I get not right into it. I still do a lot of things that I've developed myself here, and that's what I do at home. But those TV everyone watches, are you going to say, no, I'm going to go watch the sunset or something? Maybe not sunset, but I'm going to go watch the birds fly.
I'm going to go meditate.
Yeah, well, come on. You came home to visit, and we're all visiting around the TV, so watch the show with us. Oh, I can relate to that guy. And then all of a sudden, boom.
I have been visualizing.
I'm right back into that thing, and I go, how did I get stuck watching 3 hours of shitty TV, meaningless TV tonight?
I've been visualizing what it's going to look like when I go home. And I'm like, am I going to have to just lock myself in the room for a while or go and sit on the grass away from everybody and have those visiting moments? But then also I know I'm going to be in my parents' home until I'm, maybe ready to whatever the next phase is.
Yeah.
Just talking about going straight back home. And I don't know how comfortable my mum is with this new journey. So I'm like, I also have to be conscious of how this new person affects the people around me. But man, I had this really incredibly empowering moment over the last 6 weeks. So there were a couple moments where there was this non-acceptance happening. I decided to change my degree. So I'm not doing masters in education anymore. I'm studying something else now. And to tell my mum that, I knew it was going to be really difficult because this is her dream.
What did you say?
Get
Metaphysics.
your masters. Yes, metaphysics.
Yeah.
Studying metaphysics now. Tell my mum that, and she's like, what even is that?
Yeah.
Why? Why do you want to come out of society?
Smoke this and let me explain.
So I realized, as I told her, the expression on her face said everything. She was like, I don't get this. This is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. What I really saw was I'm so afraid for my child. I'm so afraid.
It's a natural feeling. Yeah?
Yes, I'm so fearful of where this road is going to take her. She looks like she's losing her marbles. And of course, as a mother, there's going to be fear for that. But then I still had to, in that moment, stand in that power of knowing who I am. And that was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, because I've always been so close to my mum. And I've always had this do the right thing kind of attitude. I have two brothers, an older one, a younger one, and they have just been like, we're going to do whatever the hell we like. And I've been the one that's like, do it by the book. And now not doing it by the book is so uncomfortable for my dad is so incredibly accepting of the journey that I'm on. My mum is finding some difficulty because of that fear from social conditioning.
Right.
So I told it to her, and I was like, I know you don't understand this, but you have to understand that I cannot live by your expectations anymore. So now going home, what's that going to look like?
But you can always return to that. That's what we said here. We can always, home is not going anywhere. We can always go home. We can always go back to that. But if you don't step out and try something, you'll never know.
Yeah.
But we can't, and I have lots of friends here who've gone back to Canada or America, tried for a year or two with their wife and kids. It doesn't work out and they come back. But no regrets. They don't want to live here thinking, should I have gone back home? Should I?
Well, the journey that I'm specifically referring to is this one of self-discovery. It's a little bit, unconventional, especially if growing up in a religious family. So, like, for example, meditation and exploring chakras, and that means talking about third eyes, and then things start getting a little wonky, weird, and and the experiences that are coming out of these meditations are not comfortable for anybody who grew up in a religious setting and who still practices that, because then it starts looking devilish and like, what weird spiritual nonsense are you messing around with? When you start to kind of understand it through your own experiences, it's not the scary weird thing. And I think my mum is slowly starting to so that's specifically what I'm referring to. Is not the journey to Korea. She's happy for me to travel, but the journey of all of the self-discovery stuff and moving out of the way that she expected my life to kind of go because of social conditioning.
What started the journey?
Depression. I was in a really, really dark, deep, scary, awful place for a good couple months. My mum actually came to Korea during that time, around May last year, because she was like, if you come home, you're just coming back with all of this depression and you're coming to sit and do nothing and have nothing to take your mind off of it. It's probably going to get worse. You're going to feel more like a failure if you don't finish what you started. And then it's just going to... So she was like, let me come to you.
Sound advice from mom.
So she came here, which was very sweet of her, for a month. And then I was introduced to this book by a friend called The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer, and it talks about observing your thoughts. I was like, what is this guy talking about? I don't understand what this observing your thoughts thing is, because I mean, when you first hear it, what is that even? How do you observe your thoughts? We think we are our thoughts. And I started practicing it on the bus and when I was walking and wherever. And one day I noticed that I sunk behind them and I could observe them. And then I was like, holy crap, I'm not my thoughts. I'm something other than my thoughts. I'm observed. If there's that subject-object relationship, then the thoughts being the object and the observer being the subject, then you are not the object. You are not the thoughts. And then that separation started. And that's how the journey progressed from there, was kind of realizing that I am not as attached to this idea of what I thought I was all these years. And that,
I like the memes that show whatever it is, and they say, this is what I think I am, this is what my mom thinks I am, this is what my friends think I am, this is what I am. I think I got a six-pack, mom thinks I'm this, my friends think I'm... Anyways, I love those ones.
A different version exists in the mind of every person that you come across.
Well, you are on some level the reaction, how people people's reaction to you, right?
Yeah.
Your opinion of yourself. If every time you look at someone they go, oh, you're like, oh, there's something wrong with me.
And you start to internalize that,
Sure.
and then that becomes the lens that you look out of and the way that you experience life. So.
That helped me as well. I had maybe I say a solid 6 months of anxiety and slight depression a few years back, and really in a moment thinking like, wow, like you said, taking us there. I don't know how to explain it, like going back and like in kind of looking at your thoughts, like, why is my heart racing right now? I'm just in a class. This is weird. At first I thought like, oh, there's something. No, because I mean that's a condition or one of the symptoms of anxiety. You'll be just driving, your heart just goes. You just have this massive spike of adrenaline. You're like, it's so weird, and I thought like,
step on the gas.
Am I dying? What's going on with me? And then being able to step back and be like, oh, my heart's racing. This is just something in my brain just not working correctly. It'll sort itself out over time, or just teaching yourself little tricks like this, and it becomes normal after a while.
And detaching, because it teaches you to detach from those feelings and those emotions. So when anything happens, like the car, somebody speeding past you or through the red light, detaching from whatever reaction you have. So not to not have the reaction, not to not have the feeling, I should say. You're not trying to control every thought and every feeling that comes from those thoughts, because feelings come from the thoughts.
It took a long time for that to sink into my head. Like, just observe the thought. Don't. I think one thing that made it stick was don't put any comments on it. Don't put any value in it. Just when you're meditating, people think you should keep a totally clear mind. It's impossible. It's just you got to kind of step back and see what's and shit's always popping up in your head, but you just don't attribute any value or any meaning to those thoughts. You're just like, oh, I'm thinking about my car. Thinking about this. Why is that coming up? That's interesting. And it's that constant going back and trying to.
You mentioned that mom wasn't happy with where the journey was going with your new studies.
Yeah.
And I just thought that's not necessarily the destination, right? I mean, that could be just part of the journey. And I think of the one we were reading about last month. Is it Johnny Kim?
Oh God.
Johnny Kim, and his family immigrated to the States in the 80s. Korean American, and he joined the Navy, and he went on to become a SEAL. Anyways, he served 2 different tours of duty in the Middle East.
Over 100 missions.
Yeah, and I just think his mom probably wasn't excited about that. Like, oh, it's okay to join the Army or the Navy, but don't go and actually fight and be in the action, because that's crazy. But that led him to his discovery of wanting to become a doctor, because he saw so much trauma in the field. And then becoming a doctor, and I believe it was from Harvard, if I'm not mistaken.
Harvard Medical School.
He graduated from Harvard Medical School, and he was doing his residency, and he got into NASA.
Oh.
And now he's the first team to graduate from NASA Space Academy with the ability to go to Mars and the Moon.
Wow.
And this started from him joining the Navy, how many years ago. And mom and dad or whoever might not enjoy all the parts of the journey, but they're not the destination. I mean, that might just be part of the journey to get there.
Side note: Tiger Mom's still not satisfied with his progress. she's still wondering why he hasn't become a lawyer yet. But anyways,
Speaking to the destination and the journey thing, there's this quote that I came across that beware of destination addiction.
Oh, did I read that from you?
Yes, I posted it. The
I tried to bring it
idea
up,
or the preoccupation that happiness is in the next job, in the next place, in the next partner, in the next happiness. We're constantly chasing, trying to get to this future destination, trying to get to a place that doesn't ultimately exist. Yeah. Because no matter how much you chase it, you're never going to get there. Whatever idea you have of this future will never be the idea that you have. The only place that happiness, peace, love, acceptance, and anything else that you put value to exists is now. Only in this moment.
So don't worry so much about going home and mom's reaction.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Release the expectation or the anticipation of whatever negative reaction. Just be where you are now.
You're hanging out with Nate. This is the pinnacle of we're hanging out with the mayor of Mugadog. Doesn't get it.
Carpe diem. We talked about it before, that part of the comfort of me staying in Korea is that I've never had a job, guaranteed for more than a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
And that brings comfort to me because it keeps me evolving, it keeps me learning, it keeps me wanting more. But the destination's not clear, and it doesn't scare me. If I lose my university job tomorrow, I don't care. And I know I'm good enough to survive, and Korea is a pretty easy place to try and survive. I mean, there's a lot harder places. I'm not in Syria right now or Yemen, so I feel very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But people say, aren't you worried you might not get rehired? Or not at all. That makes me take a different direction. It's kind of exciting, and I look forward to those things. And for how long we've been here and how many different roads we've gone down, that builds up my confidence in myself and belief in myself that I don't want a job for 20 years when I know exactly what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
It's not interesting. It's not intriguing for me.
Yeah.
But comforting for some people, right?
Yeah.
Well,
We
for
can't-
sure, I
we
can see
can't
that. But
all,
I think that's the social conditioning.
Yes.
We're taught to believe in Korea, Hyundai, LG, Samsung, SK, because
even Kongo.
that's what we've been taught.
Yeah.
So
And that there's so much value placed in that comfort. That
Right.
comfort zone, stepping out of the comfort zone is uncomfortable.
So I find it weird now that my comfort is
road.
the opposite of that, and that's my reverse culture shock going home. That
That's wonderful.
I'm not interested in knowing kind of most of where my life's going to go, just living the same thing at home. I like not kind of knowing, and anything could happen.
Being where you are.
If Kim Jong-un pushed the button tomorrow, my life's going somewhere different. And you don't really have those worries at home, right? It's very safe, very peaceful where I'm from. So I like having that unknown is kind of mysterious and exciting for me.
What is the Robert Frost? The road not traveled. He said I'm walking in the woods and roads both go this way.
Take the road less traveled. I know what you're saying, but I can't remember the exact.
Two roads diverge on a yellow wood. That's the beginning of it. I don't remember the title or the. But anyways, reflecting on my education early in life, there was one. Only this poem kind of sticks out in my head. I don't know if that was like a failure from teachers to introduce us to good poetry or good English literature, but one teacher introduced this to us, and I really found now I've always gone down the path kind of less traveled, and
Interesting.
I'm a better person for it, I think.
Good for you.
Right? It's cool, man.
Well, I remember when I graduated and I knew right away I wanted to leave. I hadn't left Canada because I played hockey, and hockey was my whole life, and I loved it. I had a bad accident. It cut short my hockey career. But I traveled lots of Canada and America, which is a huge geographic region playing hockey. I was very lucky. And that's what planted the travel seed in me, that there was so much more of the world to see, and I wanted to keep traveling. But as soon as I graduated university, boom, I was gone straight to West Africa. And
Where did you go?
to Ghana. And I was going to work in a refugee camp, and I think it was the same thing. Why don't you go to Europe or South America? It's easier. They're Christians. It's so much easier. Roman languages. And I said, I want something wild and crazy, man. I want something that people don't do. The only reason I haven't had an opportunity to do that is because I dedicated my life to hockey, because that was my real passion. I just love to play. But now that took a different direction, I've had to change and adapt, and now I really want to go and do this. And like you say, the road less traveled, because most of my friends would have went to Europe or South America, and that's same thing. Since then, I've always kind of done what's not.
Well, that's where all the interesting stories lie.
Exactly,
right?
and that's why
You
now
learn about
I'm
yourself.
comfortable in that, and I'm excited to go on those journeys and keep traveling, and because I know what it brings.
Yeah.
And I also understand how it can be a little bit fearful or scary for someone who hasn't. Aren't you worried when you go to, hey man, malaria, dysentery, giardia? I've been through lots of them, and those things don't scare me anymore.
Yeah.
And like you say, you step back and go, I get malaria, so what? I deal with it. But
Let it go.
But every person in my village had malaria,
Yeah.
and nobody cared about it.
Yeah.
So why am I so scared and going to the tropical doctor and getting poked like a pincushion? And
Yeah.
people in Africa don't worry about these things. So
Perspective.
yeah, perspective.
I'd like to read The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, and leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. I like that one. It's made all the difference. Right?
And I try and encourage, lots of the people I work with, and, do something different. Your parents always said, think outside the box, but
they don't really want you to.
And not just think, but it might have been think outside the box, but it was never do outside the box.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanna go join the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Huh? But you told me to. But that's too much. That's too far, and I didn't mean that far. So it's my parents always said dare to be different, but I don't know how much they really meant in the different.
Yeah.
It just meant maybe not.
It's just some inspirational shit they read in Reader's Digest.
It's just a little bit different, not too different. So
I made a separate Instagram group because I wasn't ready for the perceptions of people, or the perceptions of me to change. And that self-acceptance.
Why'd you care about them that much?
That's a really good question, but that all comes with the conditioning.
Yeah.
It's like I know that I care and I shouldn't care, but to actually now not care and show, or not even have to show, but just not care and do whatever the heck you're gonna do. And after the last 6 weeks of kind of self-acceptance and that self-love coming through, speaking about the road less traveled, I started to post to my main account. You asked me before why I started to post videos and whatever stuff to my main account. It's because of that self-acceptance that I was separating these two selves to make sure that those
everybody was happy.
To make sure that those who knew me in a certain light would continue to know me in that light, because it's uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. How do we and also for me, just people's perceptions of me to change, I wasn't ready. And then I was like, you know what? Road less traveled. Here I am. Take it, leave it. Get annoyed, don't get annoyed. It's all on you. I'm comfortable with myself at this point. Road less traveled.
You're going home and dropping Michael A. Singer shit on people. Like, what's going on here? We're just drinking beer last
hosting meditation retreats.
Why not?
So maybe a little bit different direction, but I'm curious, what role do the dogs play in this? I'm sure, I have kids and he has kids. They could bring joy and happiness, and they can bring anger and frustration.
Oh yeah, they're up there.
But one thing that I think about having pets is that you don't always. I'm sure you can tell when they're not feeling well or something, but that for the most part they don't talk back to you. They don't disagree with you. They provide a loving relationship. Maybe. Do the dogs play any part in this journey, or is that?
Well, let's start with the discomfort. One of them puked on me this morning. I woke up and found my shirt covered in his vomit. So that was fun. Anyway, on a
could be your husband's. Yeah. Right?
The one that I don't have.
But on another.
Oh, okay. I hear what you're
prefer
saying.
It's my pet dog than my
dog
spouse or somebody.
On the road most traveled.
So with the dogs, during that depression period, I was looking at sending them home because they were also feeling like too much of a responsibility. I was like, I'm struggling to take care of myself right now and having to take care of the dogs as well. There was one point where I hadn't bathed them for 6 weeks, and they didn't smell too bad, or at least maybe I was just so wound up in all that smell that I didn't even realize it, But outside of that, I think it was really helpful to have that companionship, right. And not have it in the sense of somebody disagreeing with your feelings and disagreeing with the way you're currently living, and being okay with not being bathed for 6 weeks and not being walked for however long, and just having that cuddle time, that affection, again coming back to the disconnect is that when I'm at home, maybe I'm watching TV on the couch with mom, I can put my head on mom's shoulder or just kind of wrap myself up in her gown, or my brother will play with my hair or whatever. But you don't really have that connection. I used to actually go for massages to get that back in the day. Like every month I would be like, a massage because I didn't have the human contact.
Yeah.
So having the dogs plays a huge role in
And now
in that. Yeah.
putting that back to the Korean society and norms here now, not getting married, no kids. I think how many years now we've seen the huge spike in dogs that there was no pet dogs when we came here. There was stray dogs. There was no pet dogs.
Yeah.
But I think now, and I would venture a guess that it's mostly female companionship, that so many people now have dogs, families, married couples, single. But I think in a culture where the men work so much, there's a lot of married women who miss that companionship, and it fills that void for them. And now without the young people not getting married, it's the same thing. I can have this dog that loves me regardless. I've never had a dog. I have no idea. But I just assume that it fills that void for them.
My cousin wrote her master's thesis on I swear to God, on the impact of dogs on.
Marry my dog.
No, what is it?
But it's becoming more common here than having
on
a
elderly
boyfriend
or something. But her thesis proved that it had a positive impact on people's
100%.
health and well-being. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I can see how that's possible, having lived it.
You got two.
Yeah.
Huh?
These women now refusing to live the societal norms of get married. I got a degree. I passed the test. Now quit your job because you have kids.
Yeah.
They're standing up for it now, and I think the same thing.
Right, let's travel.
Good for them. I guess with me, there was always that pressure for a long time for family and the traditional route, you know. And this process, this journey has made me okay with not doing all of that. Now I just get to decide to do it because I want to experience it,
right.
not because there's pressure. If I want to be in a romantic relationship with somebody, then I'll open myself up to being in a romantic, but I'm not doing it because, oh, poor girl is like... poor girl is so lonely and oh, she must be so sad in her single life, you know. It's not like that, and those thoughts and those pressures that float around just don't affect me anymore.
And that's something I came to accept early within the first few years of being here. Just I said I'm never getting married and never want to have kids, and I think after I pushed it away, then it kind of naturally flowed in. Once I had no expectations or no desire to
pursue that
to
life.
pursue it.
Yeah.
Back to the Tao. I've got another note written here.
Yeah.
It's a good segue. Any overdetermined behavior produces its opposite. Trying to be too beautiful will make you ugly. Posting so much on Facebook about how happy you are. Any social media, I don't just point out Facebook, shows your sadness. I question myself with exercise. I will not miss a day. I was just on vacation. I'm always seeking a gym or somewhere to run or do something, and I wonder what's the worry or what's the underlying concern? Is it death or obesity or sickness or I don't know what it is. Something I must.
I had just gotten to the Philippines, and we checked into our place, and I think I was sitting by the swimming pool and enjoying a beer, relaxing, watching my kids in the pool. And he sends me and says, "Hey, check if my gym's open." He was coming 2 weeks later. I said, "Gym?" I said, "Gym? I can work out on the beach. I went for a beautiful run this morning." I said, "Who the hell needs a gym here?" He's like, "Dude, don't knock it." I said, "There's a gym at my place here." I haven't seen, after 2 weeks, there's not one person that used that gym in 2 weeks. and I said,
I go to the local gym, man. It's awesome.
I said, "Gym? This is paradise. I need a gym here." But
I went for a run. I swear to God, trying to take the road not taken, or whatever the hell the name of that poem is. I hate taking pictures of everything. You see people taking that's all Boracay was for me. I noticed people taking pictures of, oh, look at my toast for breakfast. look at the chicken in the street. Taking pictures of everything. Yeah. Some pictures are okay when it gets there's a limit where you gotta cut it off. I took one picture the whole time, and it was a sunrise. I got lost on a run in the morning. It was 6 a.m. and the sun was coming up. Oh, it was so nice. I literally had stopped. I went giving into this new technology or new way of life, but
that was awesome. Running with your phone. I'm surprised.
I want to
need some tunes. I needed it. I had to use data and find out where I was going, man.
I want to read something in response to your Tao thing.
Yes.
Do we have time?
Yes.
Okay. Wanting a positive experience is a negative experience.
Yeah.
Accepting negative experiences is a positive experience. It's what the philosopher Alan Watts used to refer to as the backwards law. I won't go through the whole thing, but just the idea that if you are wanting something, you're pushing it away.
Yeah.
If you're wanting something that's a negative experience, you're telling yourself, I don't have that thing. There's something missing. But if you accept the negative experience, whatever negative experience comes into your life, that's a positive experience because you're allowing what is to be.
Yeah.
And yeah.
This is exactly what that book I mentioned earlier, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That's
Expectations.
It's all this stuff is all in there. Yeah. And
it's got a sweet swear word on the front.
yeah, he's got a second one now. I forget the title of it, but we can post it in the things after. But Dad was reading that one. I was like, "Have you ever read this book? This is really good. You should look into this one." He's like, "I'm reading a book that sounds like it's kind of along those lines." And we looked. Yeah, same guy.
Interesting.
The
I will get to that at some point.
Where or who now do you draw your motivation or inspiration from?
The first guy, Michael A. Singer, because of that, observing your thoughts. Eckhart Tolle these days.
Toll or Tolle?
Tolle, I don't know. I used to say Tolle, whatever.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle these days, but I was saying to Brian earlier that when we were talking about Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra, because Deepak gets onto the topic of the nature of reality and just how some of it can be very abstract and be kind of really difficult to kind of grasp, and that some experiences that happened during my meditations kind of bridge that gap. And that was what led me to start reading Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra on the nature of reality, because the experiences were like, dude, what is happening? I need to understand this. In the beginning, I called the two pivotal moments my first awakening and my second awakening. The first awakening was like realizing that you are not your thoughts, and kind of what else happened during one of my meditations. This huge energy, it felt like I was plugged into the wall. It's just pumping through me. It was so uncomfortable but very profound. And one of the others was this love that was pouring out of me and surrounding the planet, and another was a light shining out of my forehead, and I'm like, what is happening here? I didn't understand any of it because I'd never been exposed to any of it before. But I was also so careful about what information I was taking in, because I was like, I don't want to just listen to, and I had somebody in my life at the time that was trying to help me understand it. But even with what she was saying, I was always very careful. Like, I understand that those are your experiences and that's how you've made sense of your experiences, but you can never possibly know what it means to me, what my experiences mean. So I have to ultimately find whatever resonates with me. And then the second awakening was this experience of oneness where, oh gosh, I really, for about 2 days, I was just like, it felt like I was high. I spoke to another friend about it, and they were like, did you smoke something? So I had that experience when I smoked something. I was I really didn't.
I ate the bread on the counter that's been moldy for a couple of weeks.
And it was just this experience of like everything is me and I am everything. Like the lamp beside my bed, I remember looking up at the lamp and I just burst out laughing because I was like, you are me and I am you. It was hilarious, and I was waiting for the lamp to look at me with its consciousness and be like, I'm conscious too. It was really strange.
That's very Tolle and Chopra.
It was so strange. Then when I was on the bus the next day, I look at the clock and I didn't understand time. I just lost the concept of time. All I saw were two numbers, 10, 10, but I didn't even know that I'd lost the concept
That's
of time.
That's the number one sign of stroke, I think. Is your tongue hanging out?
So I look out the window and I'm like, oh my gosh, the buildings are so beautiful. Look what we made. And I'm just in awe. It felt like I was in another dimension. Like my whole life I was living in this other dimension, this universe. And then one day, what do you call it? The wool was just freaking pulled off my eyes and everything was unveiled. And now I'm seeing everything for the first time. And the buildings were like, wow. It was just the most profound experience. So that drew me to Deepak and the nature of reality, because I was like, okay, now I need information. What the hell is happening?
I like both of those guys. They the core ideas that live in the now. Don't put too much too much emphasis on the future or in the past. It's gonna spike your anxiety about everything. But when they get into that, maybe I'm not ready for it. And I have entertained the thought that on some level, if science is correct, which we assume, we grew out of little single-celled organisms. We're all made of the same thing. But it's hard to digest, and I need some.
I'm still trying to as well, because I'm like, I experienced this oneness, so there must be something to it. Now I'm looking for the information to kind of help me understand it from a scientific perspective. So when you start looking at quantum mechanics, which maybe not going too deep into that, then it starts to kind of speak to everything coming from the same point, which is in quantum mechanics, the vacuum, whatever. And I guess in spirituality, they call it the void. It's the idea that everything and nothing exists in that point. The singularity, right? So everything is and everything is not. It is everything and it is nothing at the same time. And when you hear about people's experiences of experiencing enlightenment or samadhi, as they refer to in India, I believe, they come back talking about this ego death, that you become nothing and you become everything. And you start to see these parallels between spirituality and science, and even with all the religions all saying the same thing. You know, we are all one. We all come from the same source. I posted something about it not too long ago, just with the different teachings and how all of them are ultimately connected. And then you bring science into it and it's connected too, and it's just saying the same thing in a different way. So
for a new audience.
That's currently what I'm exploring, but my depth of understanding is still very limited.
And I would say, listen, we got to cut this in 1 minute, but it's the same what we were talking about earlier, how sometimes you do understand it and it's personal and it's meaningful to you, but articulating it and getting it out in a podcast in a certain amount of time is not always easiest. But I want to say thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, keep going on the journey. It's interesting to sit down and share thoughts on something more than the hockey scores, which is also important. But
and if you make it back after the trip home next summer, then maybe we'll have you back on and
see how much
see how it went, how much growth has happened.
Or we can do the next one on the mountain.
Oh yeah.
Get a long extension cord from the house. But anyways, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you guys soon.